Welcome to a journey into colonial America, a time that shaped the future of a nation. This era, spanning from the late 16th to the mid-18th century, was a period of exploration, settlement, and conflict. It was a time when Europeans braved the vast ocean to create settlements in a new world, a world that was already home to diverse Native American societies. We're going to dive into the Jamestown settlement, the first permanent English settlement in the Americas. From there, we'll journey north to the Plymouth colony, where the Pilgrims carved out a life in the harsh New England wilderness. We'll explore the tumultuous period of King Philip's War, a fierce conflict between the colonists and Native Americans. Then we'll delve into the eerie happenings of the Salem witch trials, a dark period of paranoia and fear. Finally, we'll touch on the French and Indian War, a significant conflict that had far-reaching implications for the colonists and Native Americans alike. So buckle up for an adventurous ride into the past as we delve into the fascinating world of colonial America. Our first stop is Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement in the Americas. The year was 1607, when a group of approximately 100 English settlers, sponsored by the Virginia Company of London, landed on the banks of the James River in Virginia. This marked the beginning of an enterprise that was as ambitious as it was fraught with challenges. The settlers faced an uphill battle from the get-go. Their initial years were marred by famine, disease, and conflict with the native Powhatan Confederacy. The death toll was high, with only 60 out of the original settlers surviving the first year. The starving time of the winter of 1609-10 was particularly brutal when food supplies dwindled to alarming levels. But the tide began to turn with the introduction of tobacco farming. In 1612, settler John Rolfe began cultivating tobacco plants, which proved to be a lucrative crop. The success of tobacco farming attracted more settlers and investment into Jamestown, and slowly but surely, the settlement began to stabilize and grow. An important figure in this narrative was Pocahontas, the daughter of Powhatan, the chief of the Powhatan Confederacy. Her relationship with the settlers, especially with John Rolfe, whom she eventually married, played a significant role in easing tensions between the settlers and the natives. Pocahontas became a symbol of peace and cooperation, her story adding a touch of romance to the otherwise harsh reality of colonial life. The Jamestown story is one of resilience and survival against the odds. It's the tale of a group of people who dared to venture into the unknown, to establish a life in a new world. Their struggles, their victories, and their failures laid the foundation for what would eventually become the United States of America. Despite the hardships, Jamestown marked the beginning of English colonization in the Americas. It serves as a reminder of the courage, tenacity, and resilience that are part and parcel of the American spirit. Next, we travel north to Plymouth, a story of survival and the first Thanksgiving. Imagine the year 1620. A group of English Puritans, known as Pilgrims, embarked on a perilous journey across the Atlantic aboard a ship called the Mayflower. Seeking religious freedom and a new life, they set course for the New World, braving the tempestuous seas and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Months later, they found themselves on the shores of what is now Massachusetts. But the promised land was far from promised. The harsh winter was brutal, with freezing temperatures, scarce food, and rampant disease. By the time spring arrived, only half of the original 102 pilgrims had survived. It was a grim start to their dream of a new society. But remember, the Plymouth story is one of survival. And survive they did thanks to the unexpected help from the indigenous Wampanoag tribe. The Pilgrims were fortunate to meet a member of the tribe, Squanto, who spoke English and taught them how to cultivate the land. He showed them how to plant corn, fish in the local rivers, and extract sap from the maple trees. With Squanto's guidance, the Pilgrims were able to reap a successful harvest by the fall of 1621. To celebrate, they invited their Wampanoag allies to a feast, marking the first Thanksgiving. It was a moment of unity, a moment of shared triumph over adversity, and a moment that symbolizes the spirit of cooperation. Yet the Plymouth colony was not without its struggles. It faced numerous challenges, from internal disputes to conflicts with other tribes. But through perseverance, the colony managed to survive and grow, laying the foundations for a new society in a new world. And so, the tale of Plymouth serves as a testament to human resilience, the importance of mutual aid, and the power of shared aspirations. It reminds us of the hardships that our ancestors endured and the sacrifices they made to establish the world we know today. The Plymouth colony, despite its struggles, laid the foundations for a new society in a new world. As colonies grew, so did tensions. This led to King Philip's War, a devastating conflict. King Philip's War erupted in the year 1675, marking one of the most significant confrontations between Native Americans and settlers in colonial America. The war was named after Metacom, the Wampanoag chief, who was also known by his English name, King Philip. The causes of the war were many, including the increasing pressure of colonial expansion on native lands, cultural misunderstandings, and the execution of 3 Wampanoag men by the English, which was the final spark that ignited the conflict. Metacom, or King Philip, played a pivotal role as he united numerous Native American tribes in a concerted effort to push back against the encroaching settlers. The war was brutal and bloody, with no quarter given on either side. Towns were razed, crops destroyed, and countless lives lost. The war had a significant impact on both the settlers and Native American tribes. For the colonies, it slowed the westward expansion and left many frontier settlements in ruins. However, the war dealt a more devastating blow to the Native American tribes. Their numbers were severely reduced, and their capacity to resist the settlers was greatly weakened. King Philip himself met a tragic end, killed in battle in 1676. His death effectively ended the war, but the repercussions were felt for decades to come. King Philip's War, a tragic chapter, changed the landscape of New England forever. From war, we move to a tale of fear and superstition, the Salem witch trials. In the late 17th century, the small Puritan community of Salem Village, Massachusetts, found itself at the heart of a chilling series of events. It all began in the winter of 1692, when a group of young girls claimed to be possessed by the devil and accused several local women of witchcraft. The accusations quickly spiraled out of control, fueled by underlying societal pressures, religious extremism, and mass hysteria. The town was consumed by fear and suspicion, and before long, more than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft, a capital offense under Puritan law. The trials themselves were a spectacle of fear and confusion. Accused witches were subject to humiliating public examinations and forced to face their accusers in court. 19 were found guilty and hanged, while others died in jail awaiting trial. The aftermath was equally as shocking. The community was left in ruins, torn apart by the very fear and suspicion that had fueled the trials. It took years for Salem Village to recover, and the trials left an indelible stain on American history. The Salem witch trials remain a stark reminder of the dangers of fear and suspicion. They serve as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the power of mass hysteria and the devastating consequences of unchecked fear and prejudice. We end our journey with the French and Indian War, a conflict that reshaped North America. Fought from 1754 to 1763, this war was less about the French and Indians versus the British and more about control over the vast and lucrative North American territories. The war was sparked by territorial disputes between the British colonies and New France, both of whom wanted to extend their territories into the Ohio River Valley. The British and French were the main players, but the conflict was complicated by alliances with various Native American tribes. While the name French and Indian War implies that the French and Indians were united against the British, it was actually a lot more complex. Different tribes allied with different sides depending on their own interests and relationships. Major battles, such as the Battle of Monongahela and the Battle of Quebec, shaped the outcome of the war. The Battle of Monongahela was a devastating loss for the British, with 2/3 of their forces wiped out by French and Native American troops. However, the tide turned with the Battle of Quebec, where British forces captured the city, effectively ending French control in North America. The war concluded with the Treaty of Paris in 1763, which saw France cede most of its North American territories to Britain. However, this victory came at a high cost. The war had been expensive, and the British government decided to recoup some of the costs by imposing new taxes on the American colonies. These taxes, coupled with increasing restrictions and control from the British Crown, escalated tensions between the colonies and Britain, setting the stage for the American Revolution. The French and Indian War, therefore, was not just a war over territory. It was a conflict that redefined alliances, reshaped boundaries, and set the stage for the birth of a new nation. It was a prelude to revolution, marking the end of France's power in North America. Our journey through colonial America ends here, but the echoes of this era still resonate. We've navigated the trials of the Jamestown settlement, the resilience of the Plymouth colony, the turmoil of King Philip's War, the hysteria of the Salem witch trials, and the conflict of the French and Indian War. Each of these events has woven a rich tapestry of American history. As we've seen, colonial America was a time of struggle, survival, and change. It's a story that continues to shape America today.